Welcome into On Deck. Hope you guys can hear me. Hope everybody is doing well on this Friday. Thank you to everybody who's active in the chat right now. So you guys are really getting at it. And I'll try to tune in with you guys as much as possible. As always, this is On Deck. There's a lot to talk about in the world of the Atlanta Braves tonight. A lot that happened early this week that we're going to circle back to. And, of course, a lot that happened today. But if you're new here, do me a favor, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell for notifications so you can stay up to date with everything going on with the Atlanta Braves. If you'd like to, directly speak with me, the way to do that is to super chat in the chat, and that is a way that I'll stop what I'm doing and immediately answer whatever question you have or give my thoughts on whatever you bring up. So that is the way to talk to me immediately. And if I don't get to you, I promise I'll try my best to get to you after the show. But a lot to talk about. Number one, of course, being Mark Melancon. Mark Melancon, of course, signed with the Padres today. Now, the details of this signing are unknown. We don't know how much money he's going to be making. We don't know how long the contract's going to be. At least to my knowledge, as of me giving you this live broadcast, we don't know that. But what I do know is the history Mark Melancon has with the Braves. Last year, he had 23 games and 11 saves with a 2.78 ERA. He's a three-time All-Star National League Reliever of the Year back in 2015 and saves leader that year. And of course he goes to the Padres. The Padres, I don't know if you've been following the offseason, but the Padres have probably been, without a doubt, the most active team and most aggressive team so far this offseason. I don't know how much you guys have been researching, today's transaction with of course, Mark Melancon, but this is pretty interesting. The Padres are going to give the Dodgers a run for their money over there in that division, and Ken Rosenthal put it in a very good light today. I think he said it the best way I've heard. He said that the Padres don't stop and that they are in an arms race with the Dodgers, and I really think that is the best way to really put this. I think that the Padres understand that they have probably the steepest competition on paper with the Dodgers in their division, and if they're going to make a postseason run, that's the team they got to get through. And look, if the Braves want to make it to a World Series, the Dodgers is the team they're going to have to make it through. So it doesn't surprise me that they went and got one of the all-star relievers, or frankly, one of the best relievers in the game, one of the best relievers on the Braves team, in Mark Melancon. It doesn't surprise me at all, and a lot of Braves fans were surprised that the Braves didn't get him. I was not. I really think, the bullpen definitely needs at least another reliever at some point. I'd like that reliever to be Shane Greene. If not, okay, but that's who I'd like it to be. I kind of assumed Mark Melancon's time with the Braves was coming to an end. It did not overly surprise me, but again, there is no note of how much this is worth. The reason it didn't surprise me that the Braves did not go get Melancon is because Mark Melancon made $14 million last year. And not to say that that's way too much for a reliever, but it is for a guy whose fastball has diminished. Last year, Mark Melancon's fastball is at 91-ish miles an hour. And, I don't necessarily want that in the ninth inning. And I think the Braves kind of question what he's going to be over, especially a long period of time. I believe he's 35 years old now, so I question what he's going to be over a long period of time. Again, this could be a 1-year deal. It could be a 3-year deal. We don't know anything. So until we really know something, I can't tell you how much I feel about this deal. But it is what it is. All in all, Mark Melancon is a solid reliever. I know that I've been saying that I don't necessarily want him with the Braves. That is not because of the results he's had on the field. It's simply because I don't know what he's going to be versus I don't know how much money I'd be willing to pay him. Of course, also considering the alternative in Shane Greene or another reliever. But all in all, he's a very solid reliever, and he's done a lot for the Braves. He's been very successful with the Braves. He brought in much-needed relief to the bullpen, and he's probably been a veteran approach. And he's also got the best glove in the bullpen, in my opinion. So all in all, Braves country, you need to wish him well. He's done a lot for the Braves. He's been very successful with the Braves, and I think he's going to have just fine. He's going to be just fine elsewhere. But it just didn't work out with the Braves. So that's what I think about Melancon. He's going to a contender. The Padres are a very good team. They're probably right there with the Braves. They had some work to do, with all the new pieces they have. It's going to be interesting to see how they work together. But they have been very aggressive this offseason. But the corresponding move, I guess, on the Braves side of things, the Braves claim Travis Demeritte from waivers. Travis is from Detroit. He was actually traded from the Braves to Detroit in 2019 for none other than Shane Greene. This is one of the moves that added, again, relief to the bullpen. Right around the same time as Mark Melancon came over, Shane Greene did. I thought that at that time that the Braves would actually trade Ender Inciarte to Detroit for Shane Greene. Give them a veteran outfielder, maybe give some relief off of that salary from Ender. $8 million a year salary is killing us now. But the corresponding move today was, of course, to release Jeremy Walker to make room on the 40-man roster. The 40-man roster is full with adding this bat. Of course, that can change as time goes on. But Travis doesn't have a lot of time in the majors. There's a lot of unknown here. So I've seen early on in the chat, a couple questions about Travis. Can he contribute? I think, of course, he can contribute. I think anyone can contribute. But he's only got the past 2 seasons under his belt, and he only appeared in 18 games last year, being sent down to AAA. And in his rookie year, he only competed in 48, which is about a third, maybe even a fourth, of a full season. So he's a career .217 hitter. Okay, he's right above the Mendoza line. He's fluctuated up and down from MLB to, AAA. So there's a lot of unknown. But, and I mean, this is a big but, I think that there may be something that the Braves like about him. I'm not going to say he's going to be a star. I'm not going to say he's going to be a stud. That'd be kind of ludicrous at this point. But for the Braves to claim him off of waivers, give him a shot, especially when they need bench pieces, I think he's competing to be a bench, to be off the bench. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think he could be if he can be a little bit more consistent, he's got some power. Go look at his numbers. They're not great. They're not going to stick out to you. But keep in mind, we have no DH, and we have potential double headers. I doubt he'll see a ton of time on the field, but it's never a bad thing to have some depth. And he may even see a new start in AAA in Gwinnett. Give him a couple more years in the minors. Maybe he turns into something of value. I'm not saying that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping he could be a bench piece right now. But, of course, there's a lot of questions there. It made me, at first I was like, But then, as I looked at the numbers, I'm like, okay, well, not to mention that the Braves had this guy in their program before, in their organization before. I really think that's definitely an interesting feat here. This isn't some random guy they're picking up off waivers. This is a guy that they know. This is a guy they're familiar with, and that makes me that made me really interested in what this is going to become. But that's all I really think about all the transactions today. The thing that happened early this week, I actually was going to do a live about Tuesday night, and ended up not happening. I had some technical difficulties, none of which you guys were aware of. But I was going to do it and one of the biggest reasons I was going to do it because of this little nugget that got dropped. But Mike Soroka could potentially be ready for opening day. And now we've heard that before. We've heard it, a couple of times before. But at the end of the day, this is one of the first times we've really officially heard a good update on it. And the first time we've really heard anything on Mike Soroka in a long time. So Grant McCauley, of course you guys probably know him off Twitter, he had this first. Alex Anthopoulos actually was on MLB Network's radio front office and provided an update on Mike Soroka. He's been throwing bullpens at Truist Park. We knew that already. His arm should be ready for spring training, but Braves may place him on the injured list to start season in order to make sure that Achilles heel is 100%. Still time to decide. So the Braves really got this whole thing figured out. They got him potentially ready to go by opening day, but they also, if they need to, they can push it back a little bit. In a 162-game season, you're not as pressed for time. So just keep that in mind. So Soroka's going to be ready. I think, to me, I fully expect a full recovery. Okay? But I think that the Braves are playing this smart. They're not guaranteeing anything. They're not going to give your hopes up. They want to make sure that this kid's right. But I think the interesting thing here is, if you see him on opening day, whenever you see him, if you see him 2 weeks after opening day, if you see him 3 months after opening day, I guarantee you that Achilles is going to be 100% healed. Now, what happens when he gets back, who knows? He might, I hope he comes back and he's the Mike Soroka we know. But who knows what happens. The important thing is he's going to be healthy. It may take some time to get back to the dominance that he was, but make no mistake about it, Mike Soroka is a Cy Young candidate when he's healthy. Max Fried is a Cy Young candidate. Ian Anderson, potentially in a couple, he's getting there. He's just as good as, Mike Soroka and Max Fried were in their first couple of years. So it's going to be interesting to see what this pitching staff's going to be. Also, don't underestimate Charlie Morton. Don't underestimate Drew Smiley either, but I'm going to keep that one kind of quiet for now. Don't underestimate our starting rotation. Everything that we potentially don't have in the bullpen, we have in the starting rotation. Remember, 2 years ago, it was your bullpen losing games. You remember, bullpen comes in 7th inning and gives up 3 runs and we lose the game. It happened a lot in that 2018 year. 2019 started out that way. Shane Greene, Mark Melancon, Chris Martin all come in. That changes. And last year, your starting rotation is what, there were some games we lost from the start. And, I really think this year is going to be different. Your bullpen may not be as strong as last year, but the bullpen was overly strong last year. Okay, it was overpowered in a lot of ways. And it was good. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to have that bullpen again. But it was very overpowered, especially considering your starting rotation lost Mike Soroka. They lost Mike Foltynewicz. There was a lot of holes in that starting rotation. I think you've eliminated those holes in the starting rotation, and you've done it in a way where the bullpen is not empty. Okay, you still got Tyler Matzik, AJ Minter. There's guys there. Chris Martin. You got plenty in the bullpen to get you through, a 162 game season. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the pitching staff operates this year as opposed to last year. But we're not that far away from spring training. If there's another piece added, don't be surprised. Let's talk about these projections that I know have ticked a lot of you off. Okay? We're going to talk about this because this happens every year. I'm talking about the PECOTA projections and the baseball perspectives. The ones that come out and say the Braves aren't going to be that good. This is where they got the Braves this year. Okay? PECOTA has got the Braves in 4th place, and Baseball Prospectus has got the Braves in 4th place. Okay, they both have the Mets winning the NL East, and one of them has the Phillies taking 2nd, and the other has Phillies taking 3rd, swapping places with the Nationals. So this is what I think. A lot of people really get angry when this comes out every year. They call it disrespectful, and of course it is. But keep in mind, this is simply a calculation of certain factors. And this reading hasn't had a very good reading on the National League East these past few years. In 2020, PECOTA, they predicted the Mets to win that year, and it only gave the Braves a 38% chance of getting to the postseason. In 2019, it predicted the Mets and the Nationals tied at 89 games to win it, and it predicted the Braves to take 3rd. In 2018, it predicted the Nationals in 1st place, predicted Phillies in 2nd, and the Braves in 3rd. So keep in mind, the Braves won every year that I just mentioned. They won the National League every year that I just mentioned. PECOTA didn't give them a chance any of those years. And that's how much value I have in statistical calculation of a season that hasn't happened yet. Whether that be baseball, whether that be college football, the results are going to happen on the field. That's the way I feel about it. It's to no offense by them. They're not purposefully, limiting what the Braves can do. It's just a calculation. It's the same calculation they use every year, same formula. They can't change it. They can't say, I don't think that's what's going on. That's what's going to happen. Let me change the calculation. They can't do that. So, to me, it doesn't have a terrible reading across the board, but when you have a team on the rise every year, how much, here's the thing. How much is a prospect like Christian Pache worth, right, if he makes it up to MLB? You can't predict it. You also can't predict how good Acuna is going to be in 2018. What if he got to the major leagues and fell off, right? What about Ozuna's crazy year last year? Freddie Freeman's MVP season last year? Could they have predicted AJ Minter to be absolutely dominant out of the bullpen? Could they have predicted Tyler Matzik, who was gone for 2 years prior to last year, come in and be what he was last year for Atlanta? Can they predict Pache, Contreras, Ian Anderson? Can they predict what they will do? That's the thing about Atlanta. They have a lot of prospects that you can't predict what's going to happen. Can they predict Soroka's success level when he comes back from this Achilles injury? No, there is a lot of variables that this algorithm is not going to be able to calculate. But I'll tell you this, if you're not believing what I'm saying, I think the Braves have passed some tests. And they're pretty simple tests. They're not very complex ones. Number one being the eyeball test. To pass the eyeball test, the talent level on the field in AAA and beyond, the depth they have up and down the minors is far above anyone else in the National League East. Try to change my mind. The depth throughout the Braves organization is better than the Mets. It's better than the Phillies. It's better than the Marlins. Marlins are on the rise, though. I think that, frankly, the reason you're seeing the Mets go get Francisco Lindor, you're seeing all these moves being made in New York. The Phillies went and got Bryce Harper a couple years ago because they know they're playing catch up with the Braves. The Braves are set for a very long time, and that is something that I don't think these algorithms are going to be able to pick up because they're not going to know how Christian Pache will translate to Major League Baseball. They're not going to know how Ian Anderson will translate. They don't know how well Ian Anderson's going to do this year. It's just, that's how it is. But the common sense test is your second test that the Braves have passed. They're almost the same team as last year. They've lost some pieces, but they're only looking to improve. And they're losing a lot of money in the books. I mentioned that the other day. Cole Hamels, Mike Foltynewicz, guys that didn't barely play this year, that money's coming off the books. So there's still some money left in there that I wish we could get rid of. I'm not going to name names, but there is some money there I wish we could get rid of. The third test, the history test. 3 years in a row as division champs. They were one game away from winning the World, from going to the World Series last year. This isn't the calculation's fault. It's simply not able to predict what I'm mentioning. But you don't just change your calculations. You gotta go with it. But it's also not perfect. The past 3 years are your best representation of that. Mike Petriello, a calculator guy on MLB Network today, is having an interview with Brian Kenny about these calculations, specifically talking about the Braves. They did not talk about another team. They only talked about the Atlanta Braves. And if that doesn't tell you how ridiculous this is, it should tell you enough. Mike Petriello basically explained it this way. He said, the 3 titles are not a factor in a calculation, right? Your past 3 years aren't what we're looking at in terms of this year. And you can't assume a repeat. You can't assume that Freddie Freeman's going to have the numbers he had next year based on what we saw last year. The people making these polls, he said this, the people making these polls don't think this makes sense, okay? The fact that the Braves are only predicted to win 82 games. Brian Kenny today, 82 games, makes no sense. Frankly, I couldn't agree more. I think this is ludicrous. But I think it says a lot about the guys at MLB Network. They saw the entire projection across the field, American League, National League, every team. They specifically focused on the Braves' projections because this has happened every year. This should tell you that they're not purposefully trying to keep the Braves down, but this projection has something off when it comes to the Braves. That says to me that the attitude around Braves country is correct, right? Believe in the team. Don't believe in a calculator, okay? I really think this is going to be interesting to see how the Braves prove them wrong once again. But, again, believe in the team, not the calculator. Let's talk about, last thing we're going to talk about tonight on my end, let's talk about the MLB and the MLB Players Association. But before we do that, if you're new here, if you're just tuning in, I really appreciate it. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, tell your friends about this channel. We're talking about the Braves all year long. I do it twice a week. Make sure you tune in every live broadcast I have. The way you can do that is to hit the notifications button and turn the bell on. So let's talk about MLB and the Players Association agreeing to terms finally for this 2021 season. I don't think this was very surprising. It probably came out of nowhere to some of you, but the 7-inning doubleheader, that's necessary. It's got to happen. I saw a lot of talk about this. People are like, what's going on? What is this about? Why are we doing this seven-inning doubleheader? That had to happen. With COVID, anything is possible, and those have to be expected. That's all it is expect 7-inning doubleheaders. I would rather that than another shutdown. So the runner on second base is another one. They just, frankly, don't want games to go excessively long, and, I'm not really against it. I think it makes the game interesting. It is good for TV, which makes a lot of people scratch their heads and get angry at Rob Manfred. I get it, but it doesn't really change how I feel about this season. It's all about limiting the time together on the field, limiting extra innings, limiting all that. I don't mind it, especially considering we are actually getting a 162-game season. That's all that really matters to me. If they had thrown in a DH, I wouldn't have been mad at it. I couldn't say that necessarily a year ago. But, I think that the DH will probably happen in the next couple of years. But all in all, I really think that this is a good thing. I think it's good that we're actually having a 162-game season. Hopefully, fans will be able to be able to enter the stadium at some point this season. I know I would like to go back. That's one of my favorite places to be is Truist Park. I would personally love to be able to go watch a game in person. I flew halfway across the country to do that at the end of the season last year. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I'm happy they agreed to terms. I wish it would be a little bit more normal, but we'll see what happens moving forward. I think it's a matter of time before the DH is integrated into both leagues, and I think it's a matter of time before a lot of things happen. And we talked about a lot of that when it comes to, the DH integrating National League, especially Marcell Ozuna being on the Braves and all the questions about his defense. We've talked about that a lot this offseason. So if you got a super chat, if you want to know something, let me know. Other than that, I'm probably going to start hitting the comments as best I can and talk to you guys for a little while longer. I know I've probably rambled on for a while now, but let's see what you guys got. Is there any impact from the Twins claiming Kevin Garlick from the Atlanta Braves roster? Jameson, I appreciate that question, man. Kevin Garlick, I believe, is a career minor leaguer. Everything I've heard about this has mainly been, the issue with Kevin Garlick is he has a lot of power, but he has excessive strikeout rates. And not to say that's abnormal in today's game, because it's certainly not. But I really think that there's a lot more, behind the scenes there. I think the Braves kind of weighed their options. Chad Davis, you mentioned a guy I didn't even mention, Adam Duvall. I meant to talk about Adam Duvall, so I'm glad you brought this up. Adam Duvall going to the Marlins disappointed me, especially for the price that they got him at. It shocked me that the Braves didn't go get him. Then again, maybe Adam Duvall has more faith in playing time in Miami. I think he probably will have a lot more playing time in Miami. I think he's a heck of a ball player, and I really think that he belongs on the field every day somewhere. I hate the fact that there was no DH this year, because if you want to put Marcell Ozuna in left field, that's fine, but I would put Duvall at DH or left field. I think he's very good at the plate. I think he's very good in the field. I think he's a ball player, and I think he's going to be very successful in Miami. I just hope it's not versus the Atlanta Braves. But, of course, we wish him well, and I hate he's gone. I truly do. See, you guys are talking about the projections. Chad Davis, I also want to wish you well, man. Those kidney stones are no joke. Braves re-sign Turner and Greene. They need to answer to how the Pagoda thinks of them. Okay, I don't really see any questions. We were on second base, and the extra innings is the one rule that I do not care for. All the runners on first is for all the runners on where I am at first baseman. I really think the runner on second base thing is okay. It's not great. It's a lot better than the NFL overtime situation is. I don't particularly like it either. I like games to go as long as possible if that's the way they're going to go. But you're also not, here's the thing. Even if you lose a game because you had a runner on second, the other team had a runner on second, I think it's better that than to run your bullpen up, to empty for the next and mess you up for the next 3 games. So you lose one game, but you're not messed up for the next 3. I predicted Freddie Freeman wins MVP before the season starts because of his bone spur removal and the story behind his COVID scare.